Always a pleasure to talk to Congressman Bob Beauprez, who in fact is in D.C. tonight. One of these days our paths will actually cross in Colorado, Congressman.
I look forward to that, Hugh.
Yeah. Well, it's good to talk to you. I'm sad to be here on such a week, though.
It's an extremely difficult week for anybody with a connection to Colorado. We've got certainly on all of our minds and in our hearts of the family of Emily Keys. Just a tragic situation, and all the memories of Columbine very much on our minds, and it's an extremely difficult time to go through. And just one thing we've got to do is remember that we're in a strange world. There's some tough people out there, some sick people, some evil people, and we've got to redouble our efforts to make sure that our families are safe.
Congressman, I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm going to talk with Gino Geraci more, who was at the scene, and condolences from the country. And Congressman, you got a lot of work on the plate in Congress tonight. I know you're going to be there very late, but is it all going to get done?
Well, we're going to get done what we can get done. We are going to take up yet before the night's over a port security bill. The conference report is just about done. Ready to be filed, and we'll pass that and then recess until after the election, come back and button some things up. But we've got a lot of good done this week. I'm anxious to see whether or not the Senate, before they adjourn, can pass the border fence bill, which we've done about everything we can do in the House to try to send something over there that they can pass.
I cannot imagine it not getting through with cloture as overwhelming as it was last night, but we will continue to watch that space, because those 700 miles of fence, which did in fact come out of the House, and I know you're a vibrant and vigorous supporter of it, are absolutely necessary to persuade the American people that the Congress is serious about the problem before we move on to figure out what to do with those who are here illegally. One thing I know we want to do with people who are illegally, Congressman Beauprez, is send them home if they commit a crime, and evidently your campaign has begun to discover some things about Bill Ritter, your opponent in the governor's race, that he was not real keen on doing that.
Well, it's really boggles the mind, Hugh, but as we've discovered systematically, his office, while he was Denver DA, when they would get cases brought to them for violent felons, we've got drug dealers, assault, weapons violations. Instead of deporting these aliens, legal and illegal, what they would do is please bargain them down to agricultural land trespassing. And why that one? Because it's not a deportable offense. They just put them right back out on the street. And it just staggers the imagination that somebody would do that, sworn to protect the safety of our neighborhoods and our families.
You know, when I got word from your staff that you would be making this announcement today, I couldn't believe it, because I know DAs often do plea bargains, but you usually plead someone, for example, to armed robbery, to something lesser than that in order if it's a first-time offender. But you don't plead felons to misdemeanor, and you don't let them stay in the country if they're deportable. How often did it happen, Bob Beauprez, on Bill Ritter's watch?
We know of almost 200. I think the count right now stands at 192, and we're still doing investigations.
That's an assembly line of plea bargains. And what was the offense he plea bargained him to?
Agricultural land trespassing in the city and county of Denver. If you know anything about Denver, there's not a lot of ag land.
But that's not a lesser included. That doesn't make any sense to me as a lawyer with a little time at the Department of Justice. Normally, you'd plea people down to something that had some relation. So a weapons violation became agricultural land trespass?
Assault, drug trafficking. The only part of it that is, I guess, makes sense to, I assume, Bill Ritter, is that it was one of the very few violations they could plea bargain them down to that did not require deportation. Get them out of the country.
What generally is Bill Ritter's position on illegal immigration?
He's pretty mushy. First, he started off saying that it was a federal problem, and then when our state legislature decided to go into special session and the Democrats wanted to take credit for it, he said, well, I guess it is a good idea after all. And then after they did what they did, he said, well, we've done everything we can do. Let's move on. And now it becomes very apparent to me why he doesn't want to talk about the problem of illegal immigration. He admitted or volunteered a few weeks ago on another Denver radio show that Denver was not a sanctuary city. Now, everybody else in the nation knows that it was a sanctuary city, but under his term, I guess, he didn't want to believe that it was.
Bob joins me from Washington, D.C., and we were just talking about a press release put out by his office this evening. He's running against a guy named Bill Ritter, who was the district attorney for Denver for a very long time. And as district attorney for Denver, Mr. Ritter plea bargained more than 190 suspected felons to a very obscure charge of trespass on agricultural land. They were aliens, illegal and legal, and as a result of that plea bargain, they were not deported. They weren't tried. They were simply, they pled to a misdemeanor, agricultural. I just don't understand that at all, Bob Beauprez. But it is as though he had an assembly line there, a little office to get out of deportation-free cards were issued.
You got it. You know, in one interview, he was asked about his plea bargain pattern and whether or not he thought it was appropriate, and his response was, look, we were very busy there. My job was to get them in one end and get them out the other as fast as I could. I thought, what a bizarre answer. You're not running the drive-through at a fast food restaurant. You're supposed to be metering out justice. And then we stumbled across this. It does stagger the imagination, especially when you see some of the horrible offenses that are committed out there, including what we saw this week tragically in Colorado. Providing for the public safety for people that are elected to do just exactly that ought to be job one, not errors in judgment.
Now, Bob Beauprez, if you've got a list of 190-plus felons who plea bargained down to, agricultural lands trespass and stayed in the country, obviously they stayed in the country. Are you trying to figure out what happened next? Because, there's some other pregnant shoes that are going to fall there. People with weapons charges, people who are narcotics dealers, people who are charged with assault, they don't turn over new leaves all that often.
No, I think as we peel through these one by one, my guess is, Hugh, tragically, we're going to find a number of repeat offenders. And again, these are people who were aliens in the country. They had committed an offense, at least accused of it, that required deportation. You'd think you'd want to get the bad apples out of the barrel, but not Bill Ritter.
You've released this to the press tonight. I know you're talking about it for the first time on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Have you had any calls yet from the Denver Post or the Rocky Mountain News?
I understand my office's phone is ringing off the hook, and not only from them, but from very many other media outlets.
This is actually a national story because it does go to the wall, it does go to the fencing, it does go to the idea that illegal immigration is not simply a labor issue, it's also an issue of crime. Have any of the networks phoned in yet?
Not that I know of, but then I'm in D.C. and not at my Denver office, but I did get word from the Denver office that we've kicked a hornet's nest.
Yeah, Bob Beauprez, do you have any debates left with Bill Ritter before the election?
Only 16. Yeah, we've got a bunch of them.
Well, I assume then at every one of those you're going to be asking for details, correct?
Absolutely.
Has he had a statement issued this afternoon yet?
Not that I'm aware of. If he has, I haven't seen it.
Any plans to publish the list? I know this gets a little bit dicey because of some danger of misidentification, but if you've got 190 names of people who plea bargained, I'd sure love to see the list because I'll bet you the blogosphere can go find these people and find out what happened. But again, there is that danger of misidentification. I know you're going to be worried about
we want to make sure that we don't misidentify somebody and create another set of problems, but we are, right now, we are going through these one by one. And my guess is, Hugh, in fact, I'm quite certain, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story will be coming out.
Now, Congressman Beauprez, up until now, this has primarily been a campaign about taxes and transportation and illegal immigration, if I can judge from afar. But now it sounds like it's going to be also about whether or not Bill Ritter is accountable for his tenure as DA.
I think that's the right word, and whether or not he is not only accountable, but whether or not he is capable of exercising prudent judgment. And I think those are really at the core of what elections ought to be about. Is somebody of the character? Do they have the judgment that the electorate would like to be able to rely on? And will they be held accountable to the voters for the job that the voters have given them to do? And